Maybe shortly about the project, I will share with you some information about the project. The MOVE&ACT is quite a new one. It's a European co-founded project which focus on the engagement of young people, especially with disabilities, migrants, NEETs, but also all young people who are interested in and who are really in artistic activities, any kind of it. For 2.5 years, we will be working on supporting the development of these skills. As I mentioned before, for young people, to give them the chance to raise their voice and to maybe find a better workplace in the future. So our today's webinar is first from 6 webinars that we will held until May. All the details about the project you can find on our Facebook platform. In the moment, we will start the main part. Today, our expert is Magdalena Zawisza, Doctor of Fine Arts and Assistant Professor of the Faculty of Humanities from our university, but also, first of all, artists. Yeah, if you want to ask something, you can, of course, use chat or raising hands here in Zoom. And in the end of the webinar, I will share with you in chat the evaluation form. We kindly ask you to fill it in. And also we will send you this evaluation form and some other details in the email after the webinars. From me, that's it. I wish you a fruitful training. And yeah, we can start.
Hello, everybody. Good evening and good afternoon, because I guess that we are all from different time zones. Dear friends, before I introduce myself and before I start the presentation which I prepared for you, I would like to suggest something, because we are all gathered around art this afternoon, this evening. So I think that most of us create something. And my suggestion is, what if you would prepare some examples of your artwork, some samples of what you create. And by the end of this meeting, we would have a look at your creation. Of course, it's not obligatory. You have to feel free. You have to feel relaxed. That's the most important for me tonight, because I imagine this time as something really supportive for you, not stressy at all. So please feel free to prepare your artworks. And if you would like to share it with us, there will be a space by the end of this evening. So let me start. And as I told you at the beginning, I would like to start, of course, by introducing myself. First, of course, as an artist, as you know already, but also as a teacher, of course, because these are these two main things in my professional life at the moment, which are my path. And this path appeared slowly on in time, because everything started, of course, from art. I will tell you a few things about my artworks, because when I ask you for introducing yourself by art, of course, I should be this first who will present my artwork. So let me show you a few things. This Magda Vogt, which you see in front of you, is my artistic nickname. This is in fact, my real name. It's a bit complicated, but as an artist, I am Magda Vogt. So let me start art instead of appeal. I will explain you why art instead of appeal, what I understand by that, but later on. So let me first show you what's going on. like that. These are the logos of institutions and associations I'm involved in. So first of all, the University of Social Sciences, which I represent tonight. Then the Cultural Center of Warsaw, which also is my place of work, and these two places are like a kind of complementary in my life, plus two artistic things in below an association of artists and a place where we create art, where we have our workshop studios and a little gallery. So it's this Stay Free logo. And these are my things. In general, my huge and main inspiration is nature. As you can see, nature and human being, because whenever I use a motif, a natural motif, which I find in the nature, there is a question about human being. There is a question about, this basic question about who I am. Who is this human being, this strange creature who behaves sometimes in such a strange way, which we experience nowadays, these tough moments in history. So if you look on the left, there is a picture which is showing my sculptures, and you don't see the scale. It is a human scale. So if you stand somewhere close to this group of objects, you feel like you are the same size. I called it cocoons. The inspiration came from Greece, from one of my trips to Greece, when I noticed a kind of, I don't know, was it nest or cocoons, maybe cocoons. But then I realized that when we are born, we don't decide about the place, we don't decide about family we are born, at least we think that we don't decide. So we get some shape at the very beginning. We get the shape of our family, we get the shape of our nation, of the country. Maybe later on we wouldn't choose this place, for sure. Maybe we could find something better with more sun, for example, as for me, that would be more convenient to have more sunny country than Poland. So we get this shape at the very beginning. And then a little bit curved, a little bit like crumbled. We are walking through our life and try to find our own shape. So to me, these cocoons are about that. I'm telling you that, all of that, not only because I want to promote myself, but you will see that these particular works have something in common with the subject of our meeting. So the thing on the right, I guess you can catch it. It's an abacus. It's an abacus which somehow is for counting days, months, our breaths, our heart beating, because we are all somehow enchanted in rhythm of life. And then the paintings also connected to the nature. Very often water and stone, because to me water is like a symbol of life which is flowing through us and also gives us shapes, different shapes. It's, very stubborn, the water, even if it's gentle, it's, shaping us constantly. So it's about that. Sometimes these are lakes, sometimes if you put it vertically, it's a waterfall. And then stuff like that with cuts out. As you can see, these paintings are 2 layers, and you can see the bottom layer, and those holes for me are also symbolical. It's like with life, yeah. We are full of holes. We try to fulfill it somehow, and that's all about. So more or less, it's my works. They look like that. And that would be it about myself. So I think that maybe I encouraged you a bit to show your stuff later on. Now I prepared a few things to discuss, a few things to think about together, because as I promised, we have to get back to the title of this meeting. Art instead of a pill. Of course, we have to treat it as a metaphor. We won't treat our sore throat by art. We won't cure our headache by art. or maybe sometimes it's possible, but not every day. I was thinking, imagining this first meeting, because it's, you know, the first meeting of all these which are coming, which will be very interesting, which will concern a lot of new technologies and new things, really new things. And I thought, how to start, what to propose you, what to give you at the beginning to make this series start well. And then I decided that I should be, first of all, close to myself, because that's the base, And also give you something which helps me and my students, because as I told you, I'm an artist, but I'm also a teacher, and teaching to me is not to being someone superior, but it's like more being a guide who is supporting, who is helping in finding yourself. And that's what I would like us tonight to try to do together, to try, first of all, to feel a little bit better, to feel a little bit stronger, and to feel encouraged to create. That's the title. This quotation from Firisha Rashad, I would like to have as our motto tonight. Before a child speaks, it sings. Before they write, they paint. As soon as they stand, they dance. Art is the basis of human expression. Look how beautiful it is. I guess that this thought shows us that we all are artists from the very, very, very beginning. This is something so basic, so primary, that it's so true at the same time. Plus, we can take it for granted. This little child is in us. It is in us till we die. So let's try, as a first step tonight, reach this little child. That's the one. First exercise for tonight. Could you please dig into your memories and find one which is like bringing back to you a joy of life from your childhood, a moment when you had such a fun, when you were crying of laughter, when you were free and happy and creative and doing stupid things. Just have a moment for thinking about that. Have a moment being inspired by this little child in a mud, yes, we should call it like that. It's a muddy puddle. And as far as my generation is concerned, believe me or not, but kids from communist time in Poland, we were playing like her. I don't know how about you. So, do you have it? I guess you all have it. I hope so. Would you like to share it with me? Would you like to share your memory, your souvenir? Maybe someone has something to share. What was it? What came to you? Do you remember anything like that from your childhood when you were so free, so happy? I guess you are too shy to share for the moment. So as I promised, I won't push. You are free to share. You can text us, then we can read it, or you can keep it for yourself. For me, it's important that you are in touch now with this little souvenir in your heart, in your head. Keep it for yourself, because we will somehow be around this subject. Why this child is so important? Because to me, and I think to many people, the contact with this inner child is the base of creativity, is the base of art. Because what is art? We have many definitions. We could list it forever. But what in art is especially important is this cathartic subject, something which brings us catharsis. Yes, this Greek beautiful idea, which cleans us somehow, which gives us some emotion, which is so true and basic. So let's follow. I'm just showing you a few pictures of what I found in the net about playing in the mud. So my memory is that when I was playing in the mud with my friends in the yard, because I was born in Warsaw and I was raised in Warsaw, but sometimes in our yard there was like plenty of puddles and we were having such fun. And for sure we were creating something out of it. And this is an example. We were creating meatballs. Then later we were preparing like meal out of this mud. It was so great, so beautiful. And nobody was caring about dirty hands, dirty faces, and dirty clothes. Of course, nobody, but our mothers. But for us, it wasn't that important. This is something I wanted to share with you because this is an artist, a Belgian artist who is close somehow to my artistic path. We are sometimes partners in some projects. And Stefan Noel, as you can see, portrayed this little boy. He met this tiny boy while he was traveling to Cuba. His goal for this travel was to find the last charcoal burners, so the last people who get coal by burning woods in a very special way. And on the way to this lost and really in the middle of nowhere place, he was passing a little town. And in this little town, all of a sudden, there was a torrential rain. And he noticed this tiny little boy who was wearing a rubber boots of his father and having such a ball, such fun. Look at his face. It's just crazy how happy this child was. So he captured this moment and tells everybody about this picture that is one of the most important pictures in his career. Of course, there came these charcoal burners, but this little Cubanito was something extraordinary, impressive, and out of the blue. He didn't expect such a beautiful, beautiful picture of pure joy, happiness, and this creation, because to put father's boots and have fun, dance in the rain, it's just pure creation. People don't need to have artistic ability, education, or special talent to participate in art. This is also something important, and I would like us for this brief moment to focus on this, because this is some encouragement, don't you think? We don't have to really possess any special talent, any ability, neither education to create art or to participate in art, because we can be both, either observers or creators. So yes, I think this is also something that is encouraging a lot. And for each country, I think, for each region, we all have these artists who are examples of this truth. For Poland, it is this guy you see on your screen, whose name was Nikifor Krynicki. In fact, it was his nickname. His real name was unknown as long as he died, and some researchers discovered who he was, because he was born like an orphan. Nobody knew his story. He was like a local legend in a little Polish town in the mountains, and he created from the bottom of his heart. Look at his pictures. It was extraordinary person. He became a legend, a local legend. He was always present somewhere, wandering around, asking people for posing him. And his style was so true. And of course, this word that we use for such artists, naive artists, of course, somehow fits to this story. But is it fair to call him naive? If someone creates out of his heart, and he created out of his heart, probably because he was somehow underdeveloped, maybe, but as a child, he had this great pleasure to create. And there was no judge, inner judge, which we all have, who was telling him, don't do that, it's stupid, it's ugly, it shouldn't be like that. So I think that we all could list a lot of artists like that, but we also have to remember that not only artists which we call naive artists create from this bottom of the heart and in touch with our inner child. That's still Nikifor, but I wanted also to show you the artist, I mean the real artist, educated artist, like Jean de Buffet, who was so inspired by the art of those uneducated people or people somehow from the margin of the society, that he created a term for this type of art. It is art brut from French, which is translated in English as a raw art. As I mentioned before, it's a term invented by Jean de Buffet to describe such a way of creating, far from academic tradition of fine arts. And de Buffet himself started to create like that. So he was really trying badly to forget about all these things he was taught. He was trying badly to reach this source of himself being a child somewhere inside and create like children, like naive people, like prisoners or some guys who are uneducated. So that was a very aware decision to get rid of aesthetics, to forget about what we call beauty, and try to be himself, deeply himself, and reach this joy of creating. So that was a later step when he also was somehow inspired by automatic drawings, which we all can do, which we all probably were trying at least once in our lifetime during boring lessons. So you know this process. In my case, it was the last page of my copybooks, which were all covered by such drawings. Then later on, these 2D works started to be 3D, started to be sculptures like that, and like that. So as you can see, for some artists like Jean de Buffet and many more, reaching this instinct of creativity, which is somewhere within us, which is so basic, so pure, is very important, is a crucial thing. And I also think that for that reason, we can also be in touch with the joy of creating if we would forget about this cruel judge in us. Because when I think about my creation, sometimes when I'm not in a mood or something happens, I think more about the response, the society response for what I'm doing, or maybe material things, yes, how I can earn money by doing such a thing, then more than my own need. So I think it's also very important for us to remember that the true, our own true, is like superior in all this stuff. Because painting is self-discovery. Every great artist paints what he is. This is from Jackson Pollock. We will get back to Jackson Pollock by the end of this meeting. And this great artist, also with a lot of problems in life, as you all know, had this great idea. And I think it's also very, very true, because if we are really true in what we do, then we can reach the deepest us. So for that reason, art is a self-discovery. We can find out things that are somehow covered, somehow unreachable every day. I think it's a challenge. The creation or appreciation of art can be used to help people explore emotions, develop self-awareness, cope with stress, boost self-esteem, and work on social skills. As you can see, each of these points is an extremely important thing. When I was today deciding in the morning to go for a trip, because I was stressed a bit, I must admit that I was imagining myself talking to you this evening, I decided to go somewhere in the country, just for a short walk with my dog and my son. So we went, and that was really helpful. I just saw trees, birds who really don't care and have fun, and they are just alive. And then on the way back, the radio was on, and for a brief moment, I was listening to the news. And the poison, which was starting to appear in me, just scared me. Because the news, you know how they are. You know what is happening around us. You know how the world is at the moment. And that was what I realized, that I'm going to meet you tonight, and all of us we live in the same world, the world which seems to stand somehow, I don't know, in such a weird way, upside down. And how to deal with it, how to help, I don't know, people who are having war just behind our border, or those who are dying because of this earthquake, or those who are depressed. It's such a tough moment in our history. So I think that each way that we find is so important now to help ourselves, because as you all know, first we have to help ourselves, build ourselves to help others. That's why I think art at the moment is also so important, to remember that creation, that revealing our emotions, that coping with our emotions and stress is so important. And we all have this tool which is called art. According to a 2016 study published in the Journal of the American Art Therapy Association, less than an hour of creative activity can reduce your stress and have a positive effect on your mental health, regardless of artistic experience or talent. And here, as you can see, is like a little prescription, an hour a day, and it should be better. That's, of course, some ideal word. But I think what is important, the message coming from this quotation is that it really makes sense. It really makes sense to create art, to do it just for yourself. You don't have to show it to anyone. It's just a method to somehow bring to light what is happening inside. And you don't have it. You don't need to have a talent or experience. That's a great idea. That's a great message. I decided to use a few examples from history of art, because in my classes, I connect art and history of art, because these people who are just before us, who had their struggle, who had their impossible sometimes experiences, they're such a beautiful and a great lessons, also a support for us. And as first, I would like to remind you, because I believe you all know Francisco Goya, and among our Spanish friends, you know him by heart. and remind you a few episodes of the lives of these artists. I would like to remind you. So in Goya's case, you all probably know very well that he was a royal painter. For many, many years, he was a very well being, yes, artist. Later on, in the 70s, in his 70s, something happened. I mean, after all these very difficult experiences of his life, something like turned on. I mean, Pinturas Negras, these paintings which he created in the Deafsman house, straight into on the walls of the house. Here you have the house on the left, and like a drawing which is showing the placing of the paintings he created. He never intended to show it to anybody. It was just a self-therapy for himself. Among all these experiences which led him to create Pinturas Negras were really disasters. Among them was war, among them was hunger, starvation, poverty, and all these demons which human beings can only imagine. That's how it looked like. And these are the paintings. So that's how Goya tried to deal with the demons. Yes, because how to call it, how to name it differently. He didn't give any names, any titles to these paintings. They were named later. The name, the general name, Pinturas Negras, of course, is coming from the dark shades of the paintings. But look at the faces, look at the atmosphere of these paintings, look what is coming out from them. We can only imagine how painful it was to experience all those things that Goya experienced, as of course the rest of Spanish society these days. This is absolutely crazy, this painting, which depicts this famous myth about Saturn devouring his son. Look at the eyes of this poor but also crazy old man. We can only imagine what is happening, what was happening in the head of Goya. We can only imagine who were these creatures, what was behind them. They're for sure symbolical, but my goal is just to remind you that to bring to light your pain, your suffering is always somehow revealing and helping. Witches' Sabbaths or some devils in disguise. These people who seems to be somehow totally lost or insane at the same time. That's the atmosphere of these dark paintings. Sometimes it leaves me speechless, forgive me that. But I look at them each time and I just identify somehow myself with the emotions of Goya, especially now, you know. I realized that these few years ago, in fact, like 2 years ago, even 2 years ago, it was totally different to show Goya's Pinturas Negras to my students. And now it's changed. Now it's changed a lot since the war started. Of course, the war is not here in Poland, but it is coming with our Ukrainian friends, with our Ukrainian students who suffer a lot, who suffer like crazy. Of course, we hear all this news, and we could never imagine that this horror can happen again, but it is. The humanity is somehow again insane. And the last one, maybe the most innocent, but at the same time, the most heart-ripping, I would say. Do you see this little head of the dog? Do you see his loneliness? How poor he is, this little creature. That's Goya, that's his emotions, that's the way he dealt with the great crisis in his life. Of course, it's hard to say, it's impossible to say if it helped, how much it helped him. I guess at least the fact that he could share it with the walls of his house, just throw it from his intestine, to put it somewhere, to put it to light, had to be helpful somehow. Of course, if we are talking about some self-therapy, we have to mention Vincent van Gogh. To tell you the biography doesn't make sense. You all know, we all know the story, we all know the difficulties in his life. But we also probably know how important for him was creation. Creation was something which was keeping him on his feet, more or less balanced, even though he was not balanced emotionally at all. He was, conflicted with people around. He was antisocial, even though he wanted so badly. He dreamt to be have friends, to be loved, to have normal life. It was somehow impossible, but that's the price he paid for being such a genius. Whenever I look at these different sunflowers, I admire the richness of yellow, the richness of these paintbrushes. Of course, it's just unbelievable. And the genius of this person is unbelievable. But we also have to remember that art was a kind of only way in his life which kept him going on. I don't know if you heard about this starry night, that now quantum physicists, they say that somehow the genius of Van Gogh depicted the real image of what is happening around stars, for example, and around in the universe, which we can't see with our eyes. It's unbelievable, the story behind Vincent van Gogh. If Vincent van Gogh, then of course Frida Kahlo. Frida, beautiful, great, fantastic artist who suffered like crazy for all her life. My painting carries with it the message of pain. Painting completed my life. I believe that work is the best thing that happened to her. I've chosen very obvious people today. I guess that also about Frida, you know a lot. You know about this terrible childhood story, because everything started when she was a child and she started to be sick and stuck to her bed. Then this terrible accident which damaged her body, which just smashed everything without her. I have this description here, what happened. Tragic event that had the greatest impact on her life happened in 1925. She was coming from school with her boyfriend, and the bus was hit with a trolley car. Kahlo survived, this crash, but with terrible consequences. An iron handrail impaled her through her pelvis, fracturing her bone, and she also fractured her legs, her ribs, and her collarbone in 3 parts. It's unbelievable how she suffered in her life. The physical suffering, which lasted for all her life, was also like connected to her mental problems, and those were connected to her big love, the biggest love ever, to Diego Rivera, famous Mexican painter, much older, also a terrible womanizer who was cheating on her constantly. So this dramatic life, if not art, would maybe understandable. Thanks to the art, maybe let's get back, because I wanted to share with you also the art of Diego Rivera. Maybe without art, it wouldn't be possible. As I mentioned, Diego was famous muralist, famous Mexican painter, and this is an example of his art. Once, when he finally realized who Frida was, how talented she was, he was sure that she will overgrow him, and it happened, of course. That's his mural, which was designed for Rockefeller Center, which was created, and then this mural had to disappear. And I guess you know the reason why, because it's quite famous why the owners decided to cover it, because Diego Rivera didn't decide to change the composition. They didn't decide to erase one person, which is hidden somewhere on the right. I guess you know who he is. Of course, it's Lenin. Rivera never agreed for covering the person, for changing the composition, so the owner just made the mural disappear. And here is the comparison. Look at the difference. Of course, Diego Rivera was involved in Mexican Revolution. He was. It was a very political art, and art of Frida was just deeply from her heart. It was from the bottom of her heart, and here we see you can see the painting which depicts her love to Diego. Diego is situated on her forehead, in the place where normally the spiritual schools say that there is this third eye responsible for seeing those immaterial things, something which is spiritual, something which is above us. And Frida is so honest and so true in her paintings, and also so devoted to that. She can't live without painting, and even at the moments when she's stuck in bed, she creates even on her body. Again, suffering, again, longing to be a mother, and her impossible dream, which always ends with disaster after disaster. And here a little bit sweeter moment, because there was an episode in her life when she was a teacher. And here she depicted herself with her students. No offense. And once again, a very symbolical painting with Diego, with the symbols of nature, of universe, of the Mother Earth. And suffering again, and those two faces, this famous, beautiful artist and suffering, lonely, lost woman. Hard to imagine what would have happened if not her art. I painted my own reality. The only thing I know is that I paint because I need to. And I paint always whatever passes through my head, without any other consideration. Now, of course, Pablo Picasso. Young Pablo Picasso, we won't have a look at all his career. We will stop just for a brief moment at this one period that you all perfectly know, which is called the Blue Period. And it is a testimony, kind of sign of the episode of depression in Picasso's life. If I didn't know it, about this fact, knowing Picasso from this his career, I wouldn't say that it's possible. It was possible to have a depression being Picasso, but it was. Imagine that it was. The art historian, they say that there are many factors which could provoke this episode of depression, which took a few years. In fact, it wasn't that short. But one of them was a death of his best friend. He came to Paris with his best friends, and one of him was Carles Casagemas. Sorry, my Spanish friends, for my Spanish pronunciation. But his best friend committed a suicide. And that's how it started. Around this moment it started. Picasso turned totally his shades. I mean, everything started to be monochromatic, nearly monochromatic. Started to be blue, sometimes a little bit blue-green, occasionally warmed by other colors, but in general, everything was blue. Blue, sad, full of sorrow and loneliness. Again, this is an example of works from this side, from this period. This old guitarist, I wanted us to look for a while at this painting and think about the meaning. Because on one hand, it's of course, it's an old man. And here comes the reflection that it is like the destiny of all of us to get old and then to die, to fall somehow. But the guitar, the way he plays this guitar is also a symbol of artists, I guess. Full of sorrow, full of sadness. So that's the Picasso who is bringing to light his depression, who is trying to just live somehow, even though the sadness was so deep. And finally, someone from nowadays, someone who, her illness, her kind of disability made out of it a kind of artistic way. We have to say that. It's Yayoi Kusama, a Japanese artist who suffered from very early childhood to some kind of psychological disorder, a kind of psychological stress. And due to that, he had hallucinations. It was so overwhelming, so tough for her to deal with it, that she started to paint it, to create it in reality, to share with people the feeling of what these hallucinations caused in her life, in her brain, in her spirit. And these creations, they are amazing. They are out of this planet, full of dots, because the dot is a symbol of Yayoi Kusama. She creates like impossible spaces full of mirrors which reflect each other, which create infinity rooms and give us the idea how it must be to suffer from such a disorder, to be like possessed by these hallucinations. Of course, if we forget about it, the context, these interiors, these spaces are just unbelievable. They are just beautiful. But for Yayoi, from the very beginning, it was a method to deal with her problem. These are examples of these infinity rooms. So once again, look, all these examples show us that being true, being honest with yourself is bringing to light something absolutely amazing and extraordinary. So why not to try? Why not to try to be honest with ourselves? Even if it's painful, even if it hurts so much. What if it's helpful? Finally, these bittersweet stories, I think, are behind us. Sorry for that, but I think that life, it is like it is. For the moment, I wanted to turn a little bit and focus on some proposal, some idea that I would like to share with you. First, we will start with the term of collage, because collage has so many faces, and then we will go straight to describing an artistic challenge which I prepared for you, which I practice with my students, and which is a kind of always amazing with the effects. So let's start with the idea, with the description of what collage is. Collage describes both the technique and the resulting work of art in which pieces of paper or photographs, fabric, and other ephemera are arranged and stuck down onto a supporting surface. So, shortly speaking, collage, and I believe everyone of you knows what collage is, and most of you probably practice this technique, so it won't be anything new today. But maybe the way we can treat this collage will be a little bit newer than what I think. Collage in general is like creating a new world out of the worlds which we already know. Different materials, different fabrics, we connect together, we create something totally new. The term collage derives from the French term papier-collé or découpage. It's used to describe techniques of pasting paper cutouts onto various surfaces. It was first used as an artist technique in the early 20th century. Collage can also include other media such as painting and drawing, and contain three-dimensional elements. And that's how it started. It all started by Cubists, by Picasso and Braque, who were discovering new worlds, and also by using a piece of newspaper, they were creating a new quality in art, which later on was called collage. Of course, photography, that's an important factor. Photography, which at this time, at the beginning of 20th century, was of course finally concerned as art, because before it was totally different. Of course, it had to pass some time to be for the photography to be finally accepted as an art. And here you see photomontage and also collage based on photography. Soviet Union, the country which at the beginning after the revolution was really into using artists as a kind of weapon. So they were cooperating. Later on, of course, it changed. The socialism appeared, but before, in the 20s, early 20s, artists were creating really great art on a very, very high level, even though they were dedicated to politics, they were propagandists, they were still very good artworks. And this very, very famous Richard Hamilton example of pop art, which in fact started pop art and is nothing but collage, of course. I don't Oh, but there is a term which is the opposite of collage, and it is called decollage. What does it mean? It's something that we can see very often at our streets. So when we have poster on poster and poster, and then we try to rip it out, then appears decollage. And all these values, plastic artistic values, which are in front of us, appear because of destroying, in fact, of ripping out the layers and revealing what was under, what happened, what was covered. So this is also a method of creating some kind of artworks. There is a lot of accident in this kind of experiments. We cannot predict the effect. I think that is also a challenging thing, to let yourself go into an accident, to let yourself switch off the brain a little bit and just rely on what happens. The effect can be really extraordinary. That's all decollage. Because we all have many examples of artists who practice collage or decollage, I wanted to share with you some artists that you probably don't know, because they are Polish, because they are maybe that they are not that worldwide known. The first one tonight is Jan Jaczkowski. It's an artist who unfortunately died during his trip to the mountains, but he was so promising, such a great promising young person. And one of his favorite technique was collage, quite simple, basic, and based on a traditional way of creating, because here I don't show you anything which is digital. Of course, digital collage is something also extremely challenging, but to me, the classic way of creating collage has more of adventure, because you never know what you're gonna get. First, you have to search for the sources, search for the newspapers, for these clippings that you would use in your artworks. And out of that, out of what you found, you can create these new planets, new universes. Here, this mixture of the universes again, different planets. And again, Earth meeting the heaven. Another artist. This is my friend's, my former student. Marina was supposed to be with us tonight, but unfortunately she couldn't. Fortunately for her, she is now such a well-known and wanted artist that she's just sometimes too busy to be able to meet, to be able to accept some proposals. So despite her, I just wanted to show you a few of her works. Her adventure with collage started during the studies at our university. She came from Ukraine, from Donetsk. She came before the war started. And she was still a student when the war started, and I could see this huge change. I could see this huge demolishing emotions which appeared in Marina, not only in her, but because we were kind of close creating the idea of her exhibition, she was sharing a lot her thoughts and emotions. And the idea of exhibition we were about to create was about totally different subject. It was concerning the matter of COVID, the matter of isolation, all this experience that we universally had. And all of a sudden, 2 or 3 days before the vernissage, when we were supposed to start hanging the exhibition, the war started. And Marina was devastated. Marina was broken. She told me that we could forget about the exhibition. What was amazing later on is that she made out of collage her private weapon against war. And have a look at these few examples of her works. She was, of course, at the very beginning, unable to do anything. But after a couple of weeks, she started back. She started to create like crazy. She started to be active like crazy. And she started to exhibit and involve other people. She was helping, like everyone at this time, but also creating, and not letting herself to fall into this deepest sadness and hopelessness. She dealt with this horror like that. It's amazing. The worlds she creates out of these clippings from magazines, they are so true, so amazing. Just have a look. She started to help people by creating. It's amazing because on one hand, it was her self-therapy, but on the other, it was a therapy for others. Things that you cannot verbalize, somehow it's much easier to depict. And that was like that in her case. That's really the end of sad stories for tonight, because finally my goal is to inspire you and to make you feel that even though everything around is sometimes really hard to understand, there is this oasis within us, which is so important to be in touch with. I promised you a challenge, an artistic challenge, and that's the challenge. This is the task which I propose to my students. At the very beginning, they are sometimes very angry with me because it's a lot of work which seems to be a kindergarten work. So they have to get back to their childhood. And at the very beginning, sometimes I think they don't see any sense in this action. But later on, when we observe the results, I see their smiles and I see that the effect is there. So let me present the jungle inspired by Henri Rousseau and Jackson Pollock. I know that the mixture of the names is a kind of strange, but believe me, it works. So let's start with Henri Rousseau. It's like a little bit step back to the beginning of our today meeting, because Henri Rousseau is like Nikifor Krenitsky, this artist, naive artist, which we would call art brut due to Dubuffet. Artist who was not educated artist. He became a creator around his 40th birthday after experiencing a lot of private disasters. He lost his children, 6 of them. He lost his wife, and finally he just became alone, fortunately surrounded by friends, French impressionists and poets like Apollinaire, for example. And thanks to them, somehow he started to create fully and like digged into his work. This is a jungle that he never visited. His friends were creating a lot of stories about Rousseau, who was also some kind, maybe some psychologically undeveloped, I guess. And he started maybe to believe in these stories, or if not believe, then somehow follow these stories. So he started to create jungles because his friends created a story that he used to fight with Napoleon in some Mexican jungle, I guess. So he started to paint this jungle, never being in a jungle, never, in fact, leaving France. He was visiting botanical garden in Paris and depicting plants which he founded there, and that's the jungle by Rousseau. And when we look at this jungle, look at the way he created the forms of the plants, how real it is, even though it's not really real, but somehow it's so extremely beautiful. So we take from Rousseau the shapes, the variety, the multi-layers, and that's our inspiration. That's our first step. We meet Rousseau. We see his animals, his monkeys, his plants everywhere. And then Jackson Pollock. And why Jackson Pollock? Because in this particular task, what I care the most is to let my students be free, first of all, and then after switching off the brain, we switch the brain on again. So we have to prepare to create the jungle. And how to prepare? I suggest you, because now you are my students, and now it is a challenge for you, to take a few pieces of papers, like 5, at least 5, can be more, and then have fun. At this moment, I would like you to become these little children, this inner, we have to be in touch with these inner kids. So you can get dirty with your paint. You can really do whatever you want, just protect maybe the surrounding and have fun, like Jackson Pollock, like this abstract expressionist who was putting all his emotions into covering the canvases with paint. Let the paint flow, let the paint, I don't know, explode, whatever, just have fun. These are the results on Pollock's canvases, on his paintings. That's what was happening. He was letting the paint flow from the can. He was like dancing around these huge canvases because they were really, really huge. And he created these unbelievable compositions. So we let the accident happen, but of course, we somehow deal with it. And these are the examples of the surfaces which we created in our studio. So different types of action, like you see, flowing, pressing, printing. Also, we use our hands, we use different tools. Let's have fun. Let's create whatever comes to your mind. The goal is to reach like at least 5, as I mentioned before, at least 5 totally different surfaces, totally different structures, later on to have this variety of colors and forms. So these are your color papers. Now you take the scissors and you cut. Or if you don't want to take the scissors, you can rip the paper. These are the results of my very talented students. These are examples of what happened. So as you can see here, it's more really abstract art. than illustration, because we have these two tendencies. Either we go through towards art, real art, or rather this art which is more graphic art, so illustration. Here it could be just abstract painting with of course, this natural feeling, with the feeling of inspiration by the nature, by some underwater forms. You see the splash of paint. Here again, something which went more to the abstract art, but still extremely colorful, very powerful, full of energy. And I remember my student who was so surprised, seemed to be such a shy little nice girl. And then she showed her lion paw. That was a surprise for her and for me as well. Here starts the series, which is a little bit more illustrative, where you can see the forms and the tigers, the snakes, the parrots, but the variety of colors and forms is there. So we have this marriage of Henri Rousseau and Jackson Pollock. And now is the time for you. This is the space and time for you, because I know that it's not that easy to start to talk and to show your works. I asked one of my students to start. I hope he's with us. Hubert Kozłowski. Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Great. It's so great, Hubert. I hope you will start the series of the show. So I prepared your artworks. Could you tell us, like, you can touch whatever subject, but tell us your story. Tell us about your experience with art.
Okay, so yes, my name is Hubert Kozłowski, but when I create, I call myself Aidan White, which is a name of my character that I created, which I used to like insert myself into different universes, into different fantasies. Sometimes there are universes that we all know and love, like Harry Potter or Star Wars. But sometimes I also create my own stories. I create my own characters, which my own character interacts with. And it all started when I was a student in secondary school, so what in Poland we call gymnasium. And then I started to experiment with art, which never really caught my attention. But after my friend showed me some of her artwork, I started to be a little bit jealous of what she created. And I began to create on my own. And it started with really basic drawings, with drawings sometimes that I redrew from the internet. And I learned everything on my own. Like, I didn't take any classes, I didn't take any courses. I learned everything on my own, sometimes using some tutorials from YouTube or asking my other friends who also drew how I could improve with my skills. And to this day, I would say that I remain self-taught with some help of friends. But yes, whenever I create art, I try to make it my own space, like something personal to me. And yeah, this is the better look for my character. As I mentioned, his name is Aidan. The design of him never really changed. I kept him the same. And the story behind it was kind of funny, because I remember having a dream where it was in a period where I didn't know how I wanted to show myself, and I thought days and days on the design of my character. And one day I went to sleep, and I remember seeing like a really big white wolf who had glowing hair, and that I thought maybe I could somehow make it more human so that I could represent myself more. And then I learned that it's a pretty common practice between different artists on the current artists on the internet. And I thought I'm gonna give it a try, and that's how my character was created. This drawing in particular was created when I had what we could call an art block, where I couldn't think of anything to draw. I had a pretty stressful situation when it comes to work and school. So I wanted to somehow show that, but I also wanted to express it in more artistic way. And so I created this image, which was also inspired by a synthwave music that I fell in love at the time. And I listen to this day, which I highly recommend to everyone to listen to at least once. And kind of lost my train of thought, so excuse me.
Maybe I will show the third one.
All right. Oh, and here is the is my character, which I inserted into a universe of a game called Genshin Impact that I often play. I gave him the physique and the outfit of a character that I play as. And I tried to keep it simple. I tried to keep it serene. So like, I wanted people to see that and think, oh, this is so calm, so chill, as we would say nowadays. And it was also my form of, let's call it escapism from the current stress that I was dealing with. And I found comfort in playing the game and exploring the different characters and beautiful sceneries. And so I try to insert myself into that and try to escape from the stress, forget about it for just a moment.
And does it help, Hubert?
Yes, it helps a lot. And it's very therapeutic. Even though it might not look like it from like a third-person perspective, but when you do that with yourself, when you insert yourself and you imagine yourself in those bizarre situations that you, for example, are fighting with Darth Vader and you are escaping the boring reality of doing homework for your classes and whatnot. It helps you immensely to deal with that kind of stress, to forget even for a moment, to relax. And I think that that's something that everyone should try in their life. Maybe if you don't feel like it's helping, it's fine. Nothing is for everyone. Like, nothing. Not everyone is good at everything. Nobody is good at everything, actually. But I want to encourage people to try to do it at least once, see how they feel, and maybe they could discover their inner artist that they didn't even know exists in them.
Yeah, I guess it's very true. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And I think I would stop sharing my screen now and let you talk, let you share your thoughts with us, and maybe let you share some works. This is my dog behind me making these noises. Sorry for that. Is there anyone who would like to share? Say something, comment. My dog has enough of my talking. Of course, I promise not to push, so I don't push. I hope you, oh, Enya, thank you for raising your head. I give you voice.
Hi, it's listen good. My English is so bad.
Don't worry, mine is not
Sorry.
good as well.
Well, I'm Maria Bello. I'm from Spain. I'm 22 years old. My art is big board. I'm work in many in digital painting, engraving, and also in collage. My themes are usually personals or espera, for example, this collage. It's my notebook from sketches. It's my grandfather. He go to the war in Cuba in so many years ago, and engraved. But the art helped me a lot emotionally. I feel that is a method where I can express my emotions, translate my life, things that make me a strong person, and sorry. And that is all. Paintings I don't have in house because it's a big format. I have in taller.
Thank you so much, Enya. You are so brave. Thank you so much. And I dream to see more, you know.
Welcome.
I would dream to see all these huge paintings. I have to think how to do that. Yeah, I will talk to my colleague to decide, because maybe it would be good to share your artwork somehow. Maybe we will create something for that. What do you think? I guess it's a good idea.
Sorry, my English is so bad, but I don't understand big. I'm perdón. No sé. Da igual.
Oh, maybe it's a good idea. Someone, Nicoletta, she shared her Instagram. Why don't we share our Instagram? What do you think? Let's do that. Everybody who wants to share your artworks, if you don't feel like showing it now, you could show it that way.
I brought my Instagram ID in the chat.
Excellent.
Everyone can look my artworks.
This is a great idea. Thank you, Nicoletta, for this idea, because it's really helping. Because maybe not everyone would like to share it like that live and online, but maybe someone. Anyone else? Thank you once again, girls. Thank you so much. I don't see anyone, but I see some notifications on our chat. That's great. That's excellent. So I have a homework. I will look at your paintings with a huge pleasure. Please share your Instagram accounts or whatever accounts for me, for everybody to be able to see what you create out straight from your heart. So that's it from me. I guess that's enough. We are nearly 7, so on time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Magdalena, for presenting us with all these artists who exemplifies the therapeutic role of art. But especially thank you for, I think, very easy and possible to use in our everyday life, the treatment with the collage. I'm not really an artist. I'm just more the craft maker, and I noodle something and so on. And thank you all for all of our participants who also shared their artwork. It's really interesting to have you all here and to see that young people are creating so impressive pieces of art. In the meantime, I have shared in the chat our evaluation form. Yeah, so please fill it in. Also, you will receive from us the email again with the evaluation form, but also some more information about the next week webinars. Thank you all for your time. I hope you enjoy it and you will join us for the next webinars. As I said, all the details you will find on our Facebook profile, and also we will be in touch with you via emails. If you will have any other comments or feedback, you can write us back, or you can contact us via social media if it's easier for you. Thank you again, Magdalena, for very interesting presentation. I wish you all a nice evening, and see you soon on the next webinar.
And create and share it with us.